Part one-on-one with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to Art One-on-One. I'm Nicole Jordan, alongside your professional artist and master educator, Mr. Burgher.
Yes. Enjoying a refreshing Pepsi Cola on a nice, almost summer day. Yes. Happy Mother's Day, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, we are recording outside today.
Yes, we are outside.
It's supposed to be a high of like 80
something,
which is going to be warm.
So we decided that because of schedules and timing and all of those things that are going on this time of year, Mother's Day, that sort of thing, we were just going to kind of do this one on the fly. Obviously, this is not our normal situation or setup. I'm going to try to throw a few things in there by the time this drops later on today. But usually, we do these a little bit in advance, not to spoil the magic.
Sorry.
Elbowing me. Not to spoil the magic, but we do these a little bit in advance. But unless we go live, in which case,
I kind of thought that's what you might do today, but
no, I thought we would, just do this. I mean, we can go.
You have a little time to edit.
You want to go live?
No.
Okay, I guess this will be... So we'll throw a couple little clippies in there, but it is what it is.
All right.
So drive us away, Miss Pod Boss.
All right, we are going to do Ask the Art Guides.
Ask the Art Guides.
Go
using our cards as drivers of conversation. And today...
And we're down to 10. We have 10 cards left out of the deck.
We have 10 cards left. So
if anyone has a new deck that's art related or that they would recommend, that'd be awesome.
Or another idea for what to do to generate conversation.
Yeah, I do love the cards.
We could recycle the cards and do them again, but I don't know.
Yeah, we could. So I pulled Georgia O'Keeffe today.
Georgia O'Keeffe. She's really a leading artist of her time, really having a lot of influence on with her paintings of flowers, predominantly the American Southwest and things like that. Her independence, she's very much known for that. She was married to a very prominent photographer from New York State, Alfred Stieglitz, and they had a very unique relationship.
Why do you say that?
He was quite a bit older, and he was notorious adulterer.
Oh. And
and she also had her side affairs with men and women alike, and so she
worked for them.
And she was very independent and wanted to kind of go off into the...
They didn't live together, right?
They did live together.
They did?
But not throughout their entire marriage. He always stayed in New York, and she would always go to New Mexico.
Okay.
So, or not always, but she would often go to New Mexico.
They had multiple.
She had her place there, and his place was here, and
Well, and I think we can tie that into her, like the saying on here. It says you can't run away from yourself, but running away from others can be quite productive. Which I think is probably why she did it the way she did, and I completely can relate to that. I feel like sometimes I really want to be independent and on my own, and that's like when I get the most inspiration, like if I'm on a walk by myself or laying in the hammock by myself, like those are the times where things just come through that wouldn't normally if I'm with people.
I have a feeling you're like hinting that you want me to leave.
No, I'm just saying I can relate to that independence, and then also the fact that that's where she got her inspiration. Like different people get inspiration different ways. I mean,
right.
where do you, like, when are the moments where you feel your most
like
inspired?
When there are a lot of people around, when there's family around and kids running and you're at the campground and there's all kinds of things going on, it's really, really hard to zero in and, all right, I'm going to draw for any length of time. It's really, really difficult.
You did, though.
But it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to just say, look, I'm going to try to turn my brain off and click on to this creative thing, because you have to be, unfortunately, with art, you really have to be, in my view and how I do it, you have to be a little bit self-absorbed. You have to be in your own head, doing your own thing, because you can't rely on anyone else to do it. And sometimes that really turns people off to you. Like, I've got to do my thing. You can't, it's not a group activity.
Right.
Now there are studio assistants and things like that we've talked about over the years. We've talked about studio assistants for Bridget Riley or Andy Warhol, or all kinds of different names that we've dropped in the past. But the fact of the matter is that art is a individual sport. It's not a team sport.
Well, and I understand that you're saying that, but I do think that that's the way you do things. But, like, there are other artists that I would say, I mean, you can rattle one off and I say this, but where they're inspired is out being people watching and seeing people and interacting with people, and that's their inspiration.
For sure. There are people that are inspired by that, but I was just looking at some artworks by Edgar Degas, the more I learn about Degas, the less I like him. But that's a side note altogether. The point is, like, he was very much like, he wanted to paint and draw the ballerinas. He wanted to go to the show. He wanted to go to the horse race. He wanted to go to the elite activity where people were, where he could sketch and draw. But he would take those sketches and drawings back to his studio to make the final product. But there are photographers that need the environment to do what they do.
Anyone else come to mind when?
I mean, there are again
Sorry.
Aside from photographers, there are lots of artists that are inspired by people. I mean, I'm very much inspired by people in my artwork, but I take that inspiration and go back to the studio, go back within myself to actually start to construct and compose the work.
So, like, if you had anywhere to go to just actually focus on your art, would it be, like, outside? In a studio all by yourself, like
it would be
in school, in your art room?
I mean, the enclosure doesn't really matter. Whether that's an enclosure of, in my classroom, an enclosure of a studio space, wherever it might be, there are those sorts of things for sure. But
it's just a matter of being alone.
It's just I mean, but. Like, it's kind of the setup too, I like to have things kind of laid out. I like to have things organized in a certain way, and so having the table space, having the seating space, it's that comfort of where you're at that makes it practical to work. Working on a picnic bench isn't quite as practical as being in my studio, where I don't have wind, I don't have noise, I don't have things influencing, or
and
I like
you
to
have
be
tools in a certain way where you.
And I'm temperature controlled. I don't want to be hot and sweaty, and paper doesn't do well with sweat or heat or humidity or all of those, which is why as an artist I'm kind of a little fragile.
High maintenance?
I'm a fragile little flower, but I think
Would you
that's
consider yourself high maintenance?
when it comes to how I make my art, probably.
Well, I think most artists would be, because there are certain tools that you need. And
Well, and it's all like how you do it and things like that. Like those painters that, like, from the impressionist painters that would go outside and just start painting their things out in out in the wilderness. You know, it's like, wow, like Cezanne had to really, really, not only were you painting out there, but you're taking a wet painting and trekking back home with it. You know,
True.
Van Gogh, he would go out and stomp around and set up his easel and start painting, and then, you had to get that thing home without damaging it. A lot of times there are the purists that would not, do a whole lot of anything other than what they did on site. Monet would actually tinker with his paintings when he got home, which is, most people don't know that. They don't, he did not promote that, but he did.
So he'd go out and do like a pond scene or something like that, but then he...
The most notable example that I am actually familiar with, sorry for the breeze, hopefully it doesn't mess with the audio too much, but at any rate, Monet would go out into the wilderness, and he was known for, this particular one, this series was in a city. He did a series of paintings of a cathedral, the Rouen Cathedral, and he would paint it and he would change canvases, every 30 minutes or something like that. He would switch canvases. So he would work from this time to this time, flipping through the canvases, and then he would take a break and he would work from this time to this time, again flipping through the canvases, and he would bring them in a wheelbarrow, work them in order, load them back up, take them home, and then he would work, because it takes more than 30 minutes to make a painting.
Right.
So he would just work on them every day. The only problem was every day had to be the same. Like, clear skies, it had to be the same sun, it had to be, the same conditions. So if it was raining that day, he couldn't do anything. But then he would go back into his hotel where he was staying, and he would kind of finagle the works a little bit in the hotel at night.
Revise it.
Well, not really revise it, just kind of going from what he saw, just adding more elements, so the next day he could really make some progress.
Was he the one that did, and maybe this is a silly question, but there's a painting that, like, with all these lily pads?
Yes.
Okay.
Very famous for that.
What is that?
He bought a house. He was an artist. He struggled, but eventually he made enough income that he could afford to buy a house. Bought a house, and then the property next door, it was like a big, like a wooded property with a little stream that went through it, and so that was for sale. So he bought that to make a bigger backyard. He loved flowers and that sort of thing, so he turned that into his garden. He dammed off the little brook that ran through the property, and flooded it out to make a big pond. And then the pond became the lily pads. He put a little footbridge over it and walking trails and all kinds of things. So yeah,
Creative.
yeah. I mean, he loved flowers and plants, and like he saw that as another branch of his artwork that still is around today. You can go to Giverny and visit his gardens that aren't exactly the way he left them, but they're, it's there.
Well, my question, I wanted to ask you this earlier, but and I'm kind of jumping off topic, but was Georgia O'Keeffe a mother?
No.
I didn't think so. Okay, so she had no kids.
She did not have children.
All right. Well, I love the one that I talked about a little bit, but I want to know what you think of this. So it says, keep Freud guessing, and I don't understand how that ties in with Georgia O'Keeffe.
Freud was a very famous psychiatrist who had very interesting beliefs that very much influenced pop culture at that time, but he still has influences today. the Freudian slip, as they might say, like when you accidentally say something that you don't really mean to say. And then it's like, but it's like his belief was in your deep in your mind, that's what you're really thinking, and so it slipped out on accident, and so that slip of the tongue was actually your brain trying to be honest.
So like who she is and what she stood for and all that, she just kind of wanted to keep people guessing.
Right.
Really.
Right.
Was she, like looking at her and looking at her art, she seems very like calm and laid back, but like this card makes me think something totally different.
She was, she allowed, like, this is a time when, if as a female, you didn't like dress in certain ways to be thought a prostitute or be thought less of. You did not behave in certain ways. You were not outspoken. She was a Midwest girl from Wisconsin, ended up becoming a school teacher, and didn't even want to become a famous artist. One of her friends sent her paintings to Alfred Stieglitz, who had a very prominent gallery in New York, and her friend was like, look, my friend is way too modest and way too shy to speak out, but she's fantastic. Look at her paintings. Get her in your gallery, make her famous to Alfred Stieglitz. And Alfred Stieglitz looked at the paintings and was like, she's awesome. Let's get her in here. Started selling her paintings, eventually got her to quit teaching, came to New York. At that time, she was teaching, I believe, in Texas. And
there are very few women artists at this time, right?
Yes.
So she was really
it was a very much
leader.
White, male, Christian-dominated thing. Very much. And so she was very much, and she allowed Stieglitz to take photos of her in the nude. She allowed, she was very outspoken on women's rights. She was very outspoken on her beliefs. She was she became that way through confidence and time and all of that. She wasn't necessarily just hatched out of the egg that way, but that's how she evolved, Yeah. And that's, and again, there are a lot of people that did not like her because she was an outspoken woman who knew what she thought, and she expressed that. And that, to sensitive people, that rubs them the wrong way.
Yeah, some people it does, but it's also probably what allowed her to become as famous as she was.
Well, and she wasn't going to, and they say she had a sister that was even better than her, but
didn't want to be in the limelight? Or
no, she wasn't as attractive. And I don't know if that's why, but they say that and I think that some of it was also suppressed by Georgia. Some of it was suppressed by her power that she had. But it's crazy.
What do you mean her power that
she had a reputation. She knew people. She knew people in the galleries and all of that. And so there are some folks that say that her sister did not have success because Georgia wanted to be the artist. She did not want to share with her sister.
That's interesting.
But again, that's
a good video.
And I've touched on it a little bit. If you watched my art video on Georgia O'Keeffe, you may have picked that little tidbit up. Clearly, you have not watched that recently. I do think
I kind of remember that.
No, you don't.
I do.
Okay.
But I watched so many videos, it's hard to remember.
It's hard to remember them all. So you got to go back into the archives and check some out.
Well, crazy as it is, I did do that.
You
recently.
Did? Yes. Wow. What did you watch recently?
What popped up was Ferris Bueller's. What was it called?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off was the movie.
Yes.
And I did
But I'm trying to think of the name of the actual video.
Of my video?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. I know that it's like the artwork of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, or because in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, one of the things that they do on his day off, like any intelligent teenager would, They're going to the baseball game. They're going to get a nice lunch. They're going to the swimming pool. They're going to the friends to go swimming. You okay?
Sorry.
And, of course, the day would not be complete without a visit to the Art Institute of Chicago to see the most beautiful works of art.
That would have been something you would have done at that age, right?
Probably.
Or no, you really wouldn't have randomly.
Oh, I would have.
I would definitely not have.
I mean, that maybe not in high school. That probably wouldn't have been like the number one thing I wanted to do, but I would have. Like, I remember in 8th grade going to Washington, D.C., flying for the first time to our nation's capital and walking around the Smithsonian museums. But I went with my buddies. So my buddies were really, one buddy in particular was really into airplanes. Philip. My buddy, he lives in Florida now. Mm-hmm. So my buddy Phil says, hey man, let's go look at the airplanes. And he ended up going into the Air Force. Served our country in that regard. At any rate, when, me and a couple buddies are walking around, we spent most of our time at the Air and Space Museum, which really wasn't my thing at all. I wanted to go look at the artwork. And in particular, I wanted to go see the Salvador Dali that we spoke about last time, the Sacrament of the Last Judgment, which is actually there, and I never got to see it when I was in 8th grade. So it wasn't until, oh boy, this would have been maybe 10 years ago, close to 10 years ago, I knew somebody that was living in Washington, D.C., and Brooklyn, Brody, and I, my 2 oldest children and I, flew to Washington, D.C. to see this friend at that time, and I drugged them to Ford's Theater in Baltimore in the baseball game, like you do. Saw the Orioles play, this, that, the other thing, kind of traveled around, but we did make it to the one of the galleries there that actually has the Sacrament of the Last Judgment by Salvador Dali. Got to see it again, or see it for the first time.
Yeah, in person.
In person. So
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Just kind of go through.
And I just kind of went through the museum, kind of like that, like breaking it down, like here's what the artworks are, basically, like who made them, when they made them, that sort of thing. I don't get into, because there's a lot of artworks in a very short,
84 pieces or something.
Yeah, in a very short clip. I mean, in the movie, it's like maybe 2 minutes long, but you see hundreds of works. Well, maybe not hundreds.
84, I think.
almost
Somewhere around in there.
Multiple, a lot for a 2-minute video or a 5-minute video. It would take a lot of time to talk about each and every one of those. So I kind of hit on the artists and what they were doing and identifying the artworks as opposed to getting really deep into the 101 of each one of those works. But
it wasn't one of my favorite videos, just because you gave a lot of different art pieces. There's and a lot of artists, and like you said, there were too many to go into detail. Where I'd rather get the nitty gritty on it. Right,
and that's basically, it was more identification than it was getting deep into who the artists were and what they were making and why they made it, and
right.
The one artwork in particular that the movie spent the most time on was Sunday Afternoon on La Grande Jatte by Jules Seurat, which is that pointillist painting where the movie gets closer and closer and closer to the little girl character, and Cameron, I can't think of the actor's name, but in the movie, his best buddy Cameron, who's standing there in his Blackhawks jersey or whatever he's got on. Maybe was it Blackhawks or was it?
I don't pay
Red
attention
Wings.
to details like that.
I can't remember either. I know he has like a hockey jersey on. He's standing there with his hockey jersey on, looking at the artwork, and he's having a moment with the artwork, so to speak, and that's kind of a main focus of the movie.
Yeah.
But anyway,
what? Give me a couple other movies that have, scenes from famous places because that was the Chicago.
the Art Institute of Chicago. Actually, I do have a couple of other videos that are like that.
Yeah, I think I that's why I'm asking.
There's one that I did on CastAway.
Oh, I've not seen that one.
The movie CastAway, where it's not really about specific artworks, but it's how art saves his life.
I'll have to watch that one.
How art is a major character in the movie CastAway, which it's very profound. It's very deep.
This is just your interpretation, or
yes. It's not like a huge thing, but it's out there. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are a couple of others where I go into different movies and talk about different artistic type things.
You should do more, I don't know, profound. I like how you're dabbling, which I don't know, you can say how much you're going into it, but you're working on an interesting video right now that your daughter inspired you to do.
Right.
And I think those would be a cool, not necessarily a series, but things to, pulling out those.
It's a different thing. Yeah, I'm going into one right now on the artistic ties to Jack the Ripper, a very famous serial killer from the 1880s, late 1880s. At any rate,
well, it's like those National Enquirers, so many people want to know the dirt on. It's like the dirt of the art world.
Yeah,
I think that would be interesting. I wouldn't want that all the time, but I think throwing in some videos of things like that would be cool.
And there are some different things that I look at, and I don't know. If the topic is right and I feel good about it, then I'll explore it. But sometimes it's just it is what it is.
Got it.
And it's like I'm trying to get into more videos that are on the movement, surrealism is one that I recently put out. Pop art is one that I want to do, and big topics, big themes. All of the Impressionist art shows, these very big, broad brushed things. Here are the artists. Here's what it's about.
That's definitely your niche.
And so it's not really zeroed in on the artist or the artwork, but just kind of the whole thing. And I'm trying to do some more of that, although sometimes that's really difficult to do because, I want to zero in on the artist. I want to zero in on the artwork. But so it's just when it grabs me, I go.
There you go.
So,
it's your inspiration.
My inspiration.
All right. Well, I think, unless you have anything you want to talk about.
Well, you're not 100% on top of the weather.
Yeah, I do feel bad for my voice.
And
I apologize.
You've really derailed the whole podcast.
Thanks. Hey,
so
I am a trooper. I came through and did the podcast when all I really wanted to do was go lay in my hammock for 2 hours.
On Mother's Day.
Exactly.
Thank you for being a part of it.
Yes.
And sucking it up for everybody's enjoyment.
Yes. For all those mothers that push through on different occasions. That's what I'm doing today.
They all do it.
Yes. But happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And
make sure you you share, subscribe, do all of those things that really help build the channel. We are, our numbers are doing really well. The channel is really growing, and that's a testament to you, the viewer, and your consumption of the products that we're putting out, including the Art 101 videos, the short videos, the detailed videos, and of course the podcast. So we very much appreciate that. I very much appreciate that. And
yeah, thanks for watching.
See you next time. Have a good day.